We'll start in here in just a sec. Okay, I'm just getting the word out. We'll start here in just a sec. Sorry about the room. Deal with it. Yes, it's our technical office, but it's also the technical. We throw everything in this room. So you guys are just gonna have to deal with a little bit of a mess because I don't think I can throw a background on here. No, I can't. So y'all can just literally deal with it. So camera's over here. I'm looking over here, and over to my left is my screens where I'll be reading what I'm going to be talking about. So can't wait to have you guys in. I'm just going to double check the feed here real quick. Make sure y'all can actually hear me. Wrong account. Test. Okay, y'all can hear me. So I'm gonna go ahead and close everything out, and we're gonna go ahead and jump right into this. Yes, it's Kansas. Yes, it's Texas Tech. Yes, they're the two worst teams in the league, as they should be, if we're going to be completely honest here. Actually, let's do this. Put it over up there. Now you guys can't see as much of the mess besides stuff on that desk. All right, so welcome in. This is the Major League Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Major. I am also affiliated here with Crossover Radio Sports, as you'll start hearing me and Ian Nickel if you listen to Crossover Radio Sports for the Piedmont broadcast moving forward. And what's going to be great about that is I get to talk more football and I get to watch more football, and that's why I do it. So I am also affiliated with Big 12 Country. I'll be talking with them tonight about my thoughts on Oklahoma, and they will echo what I say there will echo on here as well too. I'll probably put a little bit more depth into it because it sounds like I'm not going to go too terribly deep in depth, but any depth is better than no depth. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and jump into this. We are going to start with the team I am predicting to finish 10th in the Big 12, and that's Kansas. And I think it's an easy pick for Kansas, and I really hate it for Lance Leipold. He's a great coach. He's walking into an 0-12 situation. Kansas, as far as talent, as far as something you can put your eyeballs on and say, this guy is going to be the guy, this guy is going to be the quarterback, this is our best player. There's not really anybody that just jumps off the page. When you want to talk about scraping the bottom of the barrel for talent, it's Kansas. And unfortunately, it's been that way since Mark Mangino left. So, or got fired, or whatever you want to call it. So we're going to jump into this here. It's Lance Leipold as their head coach. They pulled him over from the Buffalo Bulls. And I think he's a great coach. I think he's going to do a fantastic job. When OU and Texas leave, I think we'll start seeing him produce better results as far as win-loss. And really, anything more than 2 wins is better results for Kansas. Not losing to the FCS team on your schedule is better results for Kansas. And again, sorry, if you're just joining or at any point in time you watch this, you see my background. This is our throwaway room. So this is where we put all of our crap. It's also my office. So excuse the mess. I'm terribly sorry today. was not fully. It's hot outside, so I'm not going to my man cave to do that. Um, I wanted to wear a hat, but I don't have a hat here. Alrighty, so we'll keep going here. So Lance Leopold, really good coach. He's got Andy uh, uh, Kotenlicki. I don't know. He's got this offensive coordinator near the bottom as far as EPA per pass and EPA per run. As far as Brian Borland, also kind of near the bottom there for defensive stuff. And so that's not a great look when you're looking at, okay, how are we going to turn Kansas around? I'm not too terribly deep on his scheme yet for either scheme there, but with what they have on roster, I think it's just don't make mistakes. It's really what it's going to come down to because they're going to be out athleted, they're going to be out coached, they're going to be out anything you want to put on as far as football. They're going to be out football in every category that they throw out in the field. So as far as okay, Jake, so what did Kansas lose from last year's team? So they didn't really have Puka Williams a whole bunch last year, but Puka Williams is gone. Their best running back, the guy that gave the 2018 OU Sooners everything that they wanted. They lost Stephon Robinson Jr. and Andrew Parchment, their two best wide receivers. They lost their best cornerback in Elijah Jones. So, as we said here, PFF kind of mirrors this, and that's kind of what I'm using as my guide. I like PFF. They put out really good content as far as what they write, not what they put on Twitter. If you see what they put on Twitter, it's trash. When you see what they actually write and what goes into it, it's actually pretty good. So it's been over a decade for Kansas for 3 or more wins. We have not seen that in over a decade. The streak should continue for Kansas. I got them going over 12. I just don't like any game on their schedule. They're going to take a step back. They're not as talented as they were last year. The quarterback battle is going to be between Jalen Daniels, OU fans. If you remember, he didn't really look great against Oklahoma. Then again, nobody played worse against Oklahoma than Kansas. So you could argue Missouri State. I think Missouri State could have beaten last year's Kansas team, to be completely honest. So you got Jalen Daniels, who was not great. You got Miles Kendrick, who was not great. And then you got a guy named Jason Bean. I think he's going to be your starting quarterback, Jayhawks. He's a transfer from North Texas, and he didn't really have bad numbers last year. But for Kansas was not great passing. They had a 42-point passing grades of 42.6, EPA per pass of negative 0.35, both of which were 7th worst that PFF has seen by a Power 5 program in 7 years of college football grading. So that's why I don't think Jalen Daniels is going to be able to keep his position. I don't think he's going to get it. I don't think he's going to hold on to that at all. So for me, it's going to be Jason Bean. You got to see something different. I don't think Miles Kendrick's your dude. I know Jalen Daniels isn't your guy. He can't pass. He's athletic and he's elusive, but he's not someone you can rely on throwing the football downfield. So with that, Kansas does not have a lot coming back that you can circle and say, that's the guy I like. There's not a lot on their team that's just really anything like that. Their top pass catcher that they're going to have is going to be Kwame Lassiter II. He's a 6-foot wide receiver, 171 pounds. So he's going to probably be more of a burner kind of guy, but with all of the 2020 routes runs that he does, it looks like he's a middle of the field kind of guy. So crossing routes kind of guy. So as he transitions to the outside, he was 8 when they had him on the outside. When they had him on out routes, he was 8 of 12 for 74 yards, no touchdowns. And the reason the middle of the field looks good, really, really good for him, is because on slant routes, he was 10 for 10 for 114 yards. So the guy can catch the football. The guy can get open. It's just going to be, can Kansas produce anything offensive line? No. To be able to give Jason Bean, Jalen Daniels, or Miles Kendrick any amount of time to throw the football and get it to Kwame Lassiter. No, I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I don't think Kansas has anything you can actually say, okay, well, this is not going to be great. So what can we build on? What are things that we can look at for Kansas? So when you're looking at a rebuilding team that's going to go 0 for 12, that's not very talented at any position anywhere, you got to look at it more as I used to cover Putnam City Original. They're awful. They were not good whatsoever. The first year I covered them, they had to play Bixby, and I think they had negative yards. I think they finished the game with negative yards, if I remember it correctly. So with all that said, I think that we can look at Kansas and say, well, there's going to be some things that we're going to be able to point out. And that's what you have to do when you're on a team like this. Is if you're a senior, man, it sucks being on a team like this. Go out, play the best football you can. Hopefully, you can get drafted. Hopefully, you can get drafted. Play well enough to get drafted. That's going to be the goal if you're a senior, a redshirt junior, redshirt senior, or even a junior. That's going to be your goal, because you're not going to see any of the fruits of the labor that Lance Leipold's going to put in. Now, PFF does say the most important returning players are going to be Chris Hughes and Mike Nowitzki, a guard and center. So, I mean, when you're bad, it's when you're a bad offensive team, we saw it with Creed Humphrey. We saw it with Creed Humphrey last year. When you have to worry about other aspects of the offensive line, you have to overcompensate and you play worse. We saw that a lot with Creed Humphrey at Oklahoma last year. Chris Hughes, also the same thing. I don't think he's going to have it. I think we saw the best out of him. But as far as Kansas, they got a breakout player being Trevor Wilson, a wide receiver, coming in from Buffalo. Looks like Lance Leipold brought in a couple Buffalo players with him, which is good. Kansas needs some kind of talent because they have none. But I have Kansas going over regardless. They had the 62nd best national recruiting class, which I guess is good. Then the X factor they also have is Earl Bostic Jr., an offensive tackle. But again, we're looking at a group that's not bringing in football talent. They're bringing in guys that can play football, that are aware of how to do the position, but they're not bringing in guys that are football talented. I can go and be a running back. I can go and be a wide receiver. I could go and be a corner. I could go and be a safety. I could go do those positions right now. But the problem is I'm not football talented, so I'm going to run or I'm going to go do something, and it's not going to be right. And that's what Kansas is looking at. So when you're looking at how things are going to progress this year, if you're a Kansas Jayhawk fan or if you're just somebody that likes the program, I liked the program when Les Miles was there, because the Less to Go or whatever it was on ESPN, that documentary they did with him, I fell in love with Les Miles and what he was doing. So I'm all for Kansas kind of being that team to watch in the future, because that's what this is going to be. This is going to be a strictly, okay, so we're trying to build something. What's the something we want to build? So it's the thing, if you're a Kansas fan, you need to look at identity. You need to look at how the young players, the true freshmen that they just brought in, Devin Neal, Edwin White, Omar Burrow, Demarion Alexander, and Conrad Holly, how are they developing? Are they eventually going to find a way into the playing time to where they are actually the starters near the end of the year? Are they actually going to be, oh my gosh, you hear practice reports and these 5 players are just killing it. I say 5 because that's what PFF gave me. So is that going to be the case for Kansas, or is it a case to where we just kind of see them stagnate out again, to where we see what we've seen with Kansas? They go over, people get mad, people leave, and now there's no more depth, there's no more talent to build on, there's nothing. So that's going to be the key for Kansas. Is there an identity? Is there going to be development of any kind, literally of any kind? Not blowing a cover, just being able to stay within legs reach, arms reach of a receiver. If you're covering like a Marvin Mims, are you staying in stride with him? Are you not giving up a whole bunch of broken tackle? Like, are you getting broken tackle a whole bunch? Does a running back just bounce off you like you're nothing? Are you in the correct gap on the offensive line? These are things that if you're the Kansas coaches, these are the things you look for this year. Is that development, the buy-in to the scheme, and the buy-in to the program, because we've not seen anybody want to have buy-in to Kansas since Mark Mangino was there. I mean, heck, Mark Mangino won an Orange Bowl with Kansas, so it can be done. You can make Kansas a winning football team. It just hasn't shown to be the case there. So with Kansas, sorry guys, I got you going 0 for 12. I don't like the look of it. I don't like the talent. I don't like what's there. I don't like having a team at the bottom of the barrel as far as talent, as far as what's available, as far as depth. There's nothing there for Kansas. So again, sorry, Kansas fans. Not here to burst the bubble. Not here to tell you you're going to go 12-0 and play for the conference championship, beat Iowa State or Oklahoma or Texas or Oklahoma State, and win the Big 12 and go to the national semifinals and beat Georgia and then go beat Clemson. No, you're not doing that. That's not a thing for Kansas this year. But what Kansas can do is Kansas can find an identity. Kansas can start building on said identity, and Kansas can also start being a team that's not losing by 30 points each game. They can start building into where they're okay, we're competitive. We're within 2 scores. We're within, I mean, heck, they play Texas the best. So squeaking away instead of a last second field goal win for Texas like in 2019, hey, you squeak out another win like you did in 2016. Who knows? I mean, if that's going to be it's got to be the buy-in. You've got to have that level of buy-in. If you're going to beat a team like Texas, if you're going to beat a team like TCU, if you're going to try and beat the team that's directly ahead of you, Texas Tech, because I think there's a gap between Texas Tech and Kansas. And yes, I do have Texas Tech as my 8th place team. And there's a huge gap between the two. It's not like Texas Tech is a bad football team like Kansas is. It's just Kansas has nothing built on right now. And so there's not anything for me to be able to say, okay, Kansas is going to be good at this. Kansas is going to be good at that. Kansas can do this. Kansas can do that. They don't. They don't have that kind of mentality right now. But I think the scheme we're going to see is going to be a lot of what Buffalo ran last year. So if you want to go watch the Buffalo offense, that's going to be what Kansas is going to want to do this year, which is going to be a lot of run-heavy stuff. So they've got to develop a really, 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 really good offensive linemen. I don't think they have those there. I mean, they've got 2 guys that PFF are pointing out with Chris Hughes and Mike Nowitzki. But right now, if you're Kansas, sorry guys, it's pretty terrible right now for you guys, and I'm so terribly sorry for you. I couldn't imagine being a fan of Kansas right now, of just watching the epitome of misery of college football. It's Kansas. So we're going to go ahead and move over to Texas Tech. They are my 8th place team. They are the team I'm predicting to really be the actual last place finishing team, because Kansas is more like a high school team. I honestly think Bixby could probably beat Kansas. I honestly think Bixby or Owasso could probably beat Kansas this year. If I had to throw money down on it, I would probably say that's going to be the case. But unlike Kansas, Texas Tech has things they can build on. So before we go to the build on things, here's some problems with Texas Tech. Their biggest strengths, they don't really have one. They have a whole lot of holes in defense. They have a whole lot of holes in their offensive line, and they got a whole lot of holes as far as scheme. When you look at their scheme, it's not one of those that just jumps off the page and says, this is what Texas Tech is. we don't know really what Texas Tech is as far as a football team under Matt Wells. I talked with a couple of Texas Tech guys. They weren't really huge on. It didn't sound like they were really huge on these guys, but here are some things if you're Texas Tech, you need to pay attention to. You lost Zach McPherson to the draft. I believe he went to the draft. He was one of the best cover guys in the conference, not for Texas Tech, in the conference. Jack Anderson, they lost him as well too. One of the better offensive guards that you're going to find in the country last year. And then they lost Eli Howard, one of their best edge guys. He had an 83 pass rushing grade, just to tell you how good he is in, oh gosh, what was it? They said he didn't miss nearly half the season, so it's a Ronnie Perkins kind of deal. So he came back and he was their version of Ronnie Perkins. So here's the thing. They have a guy in Tyler Show, and the biggest question for me, can Tyler show out? Can he be the guy? Is it going to be like Texas Tech that we all know and love from the 2010 to 2000, what was it, before Baker, before Patrick Mahomes, 2010 to 2013? Is it going to be that Texas Tech that we all know and love, to where they pass, sprinkle in some runs, and play some average defense and make games close and beat a team that they're not supposed to beat? Or is this going to be something more along the lines of the Texas Tech we've known recently, to where there's not really a run game, to where it's all on the pass game, to where there is no defense? And that's the two-sided, and that's the two sides of Texas Tech that we got this year. And until we actually see it happen, I mean, PFF has the defensive line for Texas Tech ranked below Kansas. Below Kansas. Let that sink into your skulls just a little bit. PFF thinks Texas Tech's defensive line is worse than Kansas. So as far as how I look at Texas Tech, their strength's wide receiver. Their strength is going to be in that portion of it, because they could get guys open. What they weren't really good at is offensive line protection and quarterback production. So with that said, if we go and we look at how Tyler Show likes to pass football, he likes to throw the football off to the right and what looks like within 10 yards. So if you're a defensive coordinator, you're going to shade a safety over that way. Because as far as where he's not very good at throwing to his left, unless it's really, I mean, it's just the middle and to the right about that 10-yard mark. That's about where he likes to live. So Tyler Show, the quarterback breakdown from PFF says Tyler Show was not very good as Oregon's starting quarterback in 2020. There's hope going into the year, but he fell short of those expectations, finishing as one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks in college football. He threw the ball well on one-read plays such as RPOs, which kind of tells me why he has that hot zone right on the top right, or on that 10-yard out. So that's going to be a slant. That's going to be a corner route. That's going to be stuff like that. But otherwise, top 5 passer in the country, or bottom 5 passer in the country in terms of total accuracy. He had a bad habit of not seeing underneath defenders as he scanned his eyes through progressions. A new team halfway across the country is needed for the young quarterback. He certainly understands how to play quarterback, but this execution was so lacking that it's hard to predict extensive improvement in 2021. So with that said, with that being your scouting report coming into the year, is that you're not able to read the underneath coverage. That's alarming to me, because that's not something that you can just easily break out of the quarterback. Being able to see the underneath coverage is pretty crucial, because if you don't see the underneath coverage, what are you going to do? You're going to throw it right to the underneath coverage. That's something I actually struggle with in the NCAA football games. I see the underneath coverage and I think I can beat it. But when we look at how a quarterback is supposed to play, they're not supposed to be able to do that. So here is going to be his biggest prized golden pony. He still has coming back a 6'3", 220 wide receiving monster. And Eric is Zukama, however you say it. I have him as one of my Big 12. Big 12. What am I trying to say? All Big 12 players. I believe I have him as my second team. I do. He is right there. I have him as my second team All Big 12 wide receiver. I think he's going to be one of those guys that's just amazing. His go routes, 8 for 12. He was 8 for 12 for 275 yards and 4 touchdowns last year. On the hitch route, he was 11 of 15 for 105 yards, no touchdowns. Slant routes, 8 for 12, 86 yards, no touchdowns. So the guy can play football. He lives on the edges, and he's really good in the edges, and he plays those hitch routes really, really good. So if you're going to be a guy that's covering him, you've got to rely on your front 4, your front 3, whatever you're bringing as far as pressure to get home. Because if Tyler Show gets time and you don't have an underneath coverage for Tyler Show to miss, then it's going to be all Eric just torching some defenses. And I think it's going to be fun to watch him this year, because I think he's going to kind of take that step that we all want to see from him, right? Because we want to see wide receiving talent in the Big 12, because, well, let's be honest, when the Big 12 is good is when there's lots of offenses flying around. So I think Texas Tech has something they can build on. Texas Tech has something that they've got 2 guys in. They've got their quarterback they want. They've got a top wide receiver in the league. They've got Marcus Waters, a safety, who's one of the better safeties as far as he came over from the ACC. So who knows? He can maybe be that guy. But the thing I'm going to tell you guys is they have breakout player being Marcus Price. The breakout player is going to be Eric Akazunama, or however you say his name. He's just going to show out so freaking much that I think it's going to be kind of ridiculous, because you're going to have to shade a safety over to him, because you can't just leave him single cover. He's not a single cover kind of wide receiver. And yes, he's their big star wide receiver. Yes, he was, I think, a first team or second team. He was all Big 12 last year. So if we're going to look at it, if we're going to look at a breakout player, it's him. He's their breakout player, and he's their biggest X factor, because if he has a huge year, Texas Tech finishes 6th, not 8th. That's 2 places. That's where I have, who is that? That's West Virginia. They could be better than West Virginia if he has a huge year, if he produces, if he does the things he's supposed to. And with that, Sonny Cumbie has a lot of things that he probably really likes. However, it's always, for me, the number one thing for me, offensive line play. If your offensive line play is poor, then yeah, that's what you're going to see, is poor offensive line play. So Texas Tech, that's where they're at. Sonny Cumbie has a lot he can enjoy. Keith Patterson's probably going to have a bad year. He's probably going to find getting fired. And then Matt Wells. I mean, this is kind of a critical year for Matt Wells, because if he doesn't produce better than 8th, better than what my prediction is, then he's probably going to have a pretty hot seat, if not no seat at Texas Tech next year. So we'll see. We'll see what comes out of Texas Tech. I'm not as big. I'm not big on Kansas. No talent. Texas Tech, I just don't like their offensive line, and I don't see anything defensively to write home about. They don't have that McPherson that you look at and go, okay, throw away from him, go to anybody else. Run the football, because they can't stop the run. They haven't been able to stop the run since 2008. So that's just my thoughts here on Texas Tech and Kansas. If you're joining in, I don't know who all's in here. I see someone's on there. It's not telling me who. But if you're just joining in on the replay of it, leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think so far. I'll go back and watch these. I'll address these on the Twitters. So I also said that I'd be doing my second team all Big 12. So we're going to start with the special teams, because I think they're so undermined that it's crazy. So your punt or kick, your punt or kick returner is last year's guy who shouldn't have been first team, and that's going to be Phillip Brooks from Kansas State. I have him in the second team. I'm just not as high on Kansas State this year as other people might think. I'll get into that tomorrow. And then your place kicker, I got Alex Hale from Oklahoma State. And then your punter being Jordan Sandy from TCU. On defense, I'm going to start on the defensive side of the ball. If I mess up names, sorry, my bad. I suck at names. I work at a call center, so I'm not good with names. I'm going to mess up a name if I don't have that person here telling me, oh no, you say it this way. It's not Jacob, it's Jacob. What? No, that's dumb. It's Jake. All right, so defense is Akeem Mesidor from West Virginia, Will McDonald from Iowa State, Trace Ford from Oklahoma State, and Israel Antwine from Oklahoma State, and Sake Ika from Baylor. That's going to be my defensive lineman, second team. Going to the linebackers, I have got Jamoy Hodge from TCU, Josh Chandler Semedo from West Virginia. I've got Malcolm Rodriguez from Oklahoma State, DeMarvion Overshown from Texas, and that rounds out my linebackers. And heading over to the defensive backs, I've got LaKendrick Van Zant from TCU. I've got Sean Mahone from West Virginia, Deshaun Jameson, Texas, BJ Foster from Texas, and Delarian Turner-Yell from Oklahoma. And that rounds out my second team all Big 12 defense. Heading to the offensive side of things, I've got a huge shakeup, and I think you guys might actually like it. Skylar Thompson. And not enough is talked about Skylar Thompson, what he did at the start of last year. He could have easily been in the all Big 12 talk if he'd not gotten hurt like he did, but I got him coming back. I've got Skylar Thompson as your second team all Big 12 quarterback. I've got both Oklahoma running backs as your running backs. So Eric Gray and Kennedy Brooks. I've got Logan Carter from Oklahoma State as your fullback. Jaden Hazelwood, Eric Azukanama, however you say his name, the kid from Tech, and Winston Wright from West Virginia as your wide receivers. Austin Stogner from Oklahoma being your tight end. Anton Harrison, Jack Anderson. I thought it said Jack Anderson left. He's back. I might like Texas Tech a little bit more. Yeah, it said he left, so I might have to update that. I'll put a question mark there. I'll say Jack Anderson until I can get an actual answer for myself on if he's actually playing for Texas Tech. But Anton Harrison from Oklahoma, potentially Jack Anderson from Texas Tech. If not him, it'll probably be I'll probably take somebody from Oklahoma State there. Abena Ease from TCU, Doug Nestor from West Virginia, and Danny Godlewski from Oklahoma State. So I like Oklahoma State being a second team powerhouse as far as a whole bunch of players there. You notice I didn't have a lot of Oklahoma players there because I'll drink my Kool-Aid. So with that said, that's my second team. I'll post all that on Twitter. I'll post a picture of it on Twitter. I will, again, if Jack Anderson is not playing for Texas Tech, I will find somebody else to fill in that spot. It's probably either going to be from Texas or from Oklahoma State. Just a heads up there. But I am not going to get into the first team all Big 12. I'm going to do that for Friday for you guys on programming note there. If there's anything else you guys ever want to hear from this podcast, please at the Major League 3, hit me up. Let me know what you guys think about the episode, what you guys think about Kansas on the Twitter page as well too. I will go and double check Jack Anderson just to make sure my list is current. So with that said, this has been real fun. Sorry about the mess behind me. If you're wondering why there's such a huge mess behind me, this is our throwaway room. I don't want to go outside in my man cave because it's hot, and I didn't really want to do it in the heat. I wanted my 70-degree air coming down from right above me right there. So, all week is going to be all Big 12 talk from this podcast. If there's something you guys want to hear, something you guys want More specifically, I just don't have a whole lot on Kansas and Texas Tech that I actually like outside of Texas Tech's wide receiver. And with that, you guys have a good week. Can't wait to see y'all tomorrow for Baylor and Kansas State. So we are moving up my rankings. So Texas Tech, I'm going to predict to go 5-7, 2-7 in the Big 12 with 3 all Big 12 players, potentially 2. But I read one of them to you guys here, so that means the other 2 are in the starting or in the first team slots, I think. There's 1 first team, 1 second team, 1 question mark. But with that, tomorrow we'll get to Baylor and Kansas State. So again, Kansas 0-12, 0-9, Texas Tech 5-7, 2-7. So guys, have a great week. Try not to ruin somebody's 2021. And guys, for the love of sanity, if you haven't done it, I'm going to take that platform right now. I'm going to step on my soapbox. I'm going to do all the things here. Listen, we didn't get capacity football last year as far as fans because COVID hit. Let's not make this a thing. Let's all just agree. Listen, if we all jump in and we all get the shot within the next week, right? So if you get the Johnson & Johnson shot, let's say you just get the 1 poke and you're done. Listen, in 2 weeks, if you get it tomorrow, in 2 weeks, guess what? You're going to be fine. You can watch all the football you want. You can go to all the football events that you want to because you're vaccinated. You're going to be much more protected than those who are not. So if we all can jump in and we can all do the things that we need to do to make sure we can have capacity football, if it's even just 75%, that's more college football stadium atmosphere than it was last year with 20 up to 25%. So, guys, if we jump on this now, listen, we've had all summer to tackle this. And you guys beating your chest out, oh, this is fake, oh, all that. I don't want to hear it. I haven't seen the people I work with. I haven't been to my work area since day 1 to go pick up all my stuff. So we need to, as a group of sports people, we need to realize last year sucked. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't watch our favorite people live, do sporting things that are amazing. So why are we putting that into question now? When we have a solution, we have a way to end this thing now. We could have nipped it in the butt 3 months ago, but now we have to deal with this new Delta variant that's probably going to shut everything back down again. My wife and I had a conversation about it, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get shut down again. And guess what happens if we get shut down? They're going to limit capacity at stadiums. I don't want that for any of us. I don't want that for anybody, period. Because this sucks. This last year and almost a half has sucked. I hate this. I am a social person. I want to go out and talk to people. But with that said, guys, let's get ahead of this. Let's do the things we're supposed to do. Let's go get the shot. Whatever shot you want to get, I really don't care. I'm a Pfizer guy because I wanted the thing that came out first that had a little bit more, that was international. So I wanted that. But guys, there's Johnson & Johnson shot. You can get once in the arm and you can be done in 2 weeks. It's all in your system. You're all vaccinated and you're all good. If you want to do it that way, if you want to go with Pfizer shot, listen, you can you won't make the Nebraska game being fully vaccinated, but you want to know what you can do? You can make the rest of the Big 12. So if we all jump in and do that now, if we all do what we're supposed to and try and kill this virus now, we can do it now. Listen, I'm not going to say yay or nay on masks. That's your decision. But listen, if you really don't want to get shut down as country again, if you don't want to watch football with no crowd noise, go get the vaccine. Go get the vaccine. Do all the normal COVID stuff you've been doing. Because listen, it can't spread if we're not doing what it can't spread, it can't multiply, it can't replicate, it can't make new variants of itself if we're doing the things that we're supposed to do as far as staying away from people, 6 feet away from people, as long as we're not sneezing in each other's faces, as long as we're doing the things that we're supposed to do as far as staying cleanliness. Ignore the stuff behind me. I know I'm talking about cleanliness. If we do the thing, if we're hygienic as a country for the next, let's just say, month. Get the vaccine for the next month. Within the next month, stay hygienic. This thing will die. I promise you guys. It'll die if we all buy in. We talked about Kansas not having buy-in, and that's why they haven't won more than 3 games in over a decade. Guys, let's not mimic Kansas football as a country, as a state. Okay? Let's go get this done. I want to be able to go watch live football. I want to go be able and do all the things that I enjoyed before the country shut down. So, guys, let's go do that. Let's all agree. Let's all jump in. Let's all make sure we can actually go watch football. I would love to have a beer with you guys and be able to do these things, but we can't do it if we're shut down. So with that, that's my soapbox. Getting off my soapbox. Guys, that's my Big 12 preview, day 1. Day 2 tomorrow is going to have Baylor and Kansas State. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Deuces.